The moment Queen Letizia adjusted her expression and looked away from King Felipe during that palace appearance last week, I knew something was off. Not scandal off. Not tabloid drama off. I mean the kind of tension you notice when two people have spent years protecting the exact same secret, but one of them is getting tired of carrying it. And honestly, the Spanish palace has become very good at hiding emotions in plain sight. That's the real story nobody talks about enough. Because people think royal secrets are always about affairs, betrayals, or leaked documents. But sometimes the biggest secret inside a monarchy is much simpler and much more dangerous. Control. Who really has it? Who's losing it? And who spent years pretending everything was perfectly balanced when it wasn't? And I'll say this right now, I don't think the major secret Queen Letizia kept hidden from King Felipe was one single explosive event. I think it was something slower. Something more psychological. A private understanding of how fragile the monarchy actually was, long before Felipe fully realized it himself. And once I started thinking about that angle, suddenly years of royal behavior started making sense. Because if you go back and rewatch old appearances, interviews, ceremonies, you start noticing something strange. Letizia was always preparing for storms before everyone else saw them coming. That's what fascinates me about her. While other royals focused on image, glamour, and protocol, Letizia always behaved like someone expecting impact. Like someone who understood that modern monarchies don't collapse dramatically anymore. They erode quietly through perception. And maybe that awareness became the one thing she never fully shared with Felipe. Now pause there for a second because this is where the story becomes bigger than gossip. If you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe, I post every day. Because what we're seeing inside the Spanish royal family right now feels completely different from the old royal formula people are used to. Look at Prince William and Kate Middleton in Britain. Their public strategy is warmth, familiarity, stability. They lean into emotional comfort. But Spain feels more tense lately. More strategic, almost corporate. It reminds me of the difference between an old luxury brand trying to protect its legacy and a startup fighting to survive disruption. And weirdly enough, if Mr. Beast were running royal PR in 2026, he'd probably understand this immediately. Audiences don't connect to perfection anymore, they connect to pressure. That's why Leonor's military journey exploded online the way it did. Pressure feels real. And I think Letizia understood that before anyone else inside the palace. Now here's the part one personally think most commentators miss. People love portraying Queen Letizia as controlling. But what if that control wasn't about ego? What if it was fear? Fear that the monarchy could lose public trust the same way other institutions across Europe already have. Because remember, Letizia didn't grow up royal. She came from journalism, media, television, narratives. She understands how fast public opinion shifts in the digital era probably better than almost anyone inside the monarchy. That changes how you see everything she's done over the years. Suddenly her strict image management doesn't look random anymore. It looks defensive, calculated survival. And maybe that became the secret tension between her and Felipe. Because Felipe was raised to believe in the institution. Letizia was raised to understand the audience. Those are not the same thing. And honestly, that difference might explain almost every strange palace rumor we've heard over the last few years. Think about it. Whenever controversies hit the royal family, Letizia often appears emotionally restrained while Felipe looks burdened in a different way, almost like someone carrying inherited responsibility. But Letizia's reactions feel more tactical. Like she's constantly scanning for danger 3 moves ahead. That's not accidental behavior. That's someone who knows modern media can destroy reputations faster than institutions can defend them. And maybe the secret wasn't hidden out of betrayal. Maybe it was hidden because saying it out loud would force Felipe to confront something painful. That the monarchy's greatest threat wasn't politics. It was relevance. Now this is where my own hot take comes in. I actually think Queen Letizia transformed the Spanish monarchy more than people realize, but she did it quietly. Not through speeches. Not through dramatic reforms. Through tone. Through posture. Through media discipline. Through controlling access. Through protecting Leonor's long-term image almost obsessively. At first, critics mocked it. People said she was cold. Too polished. Too distant. But now, look around Europe. Every monarchy is fighting the same battle. How do you stay respected in an era where TikTok trends replace headlines in hours? That's the war Letizia saw coming early. And I think Felipe eventually realized she may have been right. But maybe not before years of tension built behind closed doors. Now here's something that caught my attention recently. Watch how palace coverage increasingly frames Leonor. Not as a princess celebrity. Not as a glamorous royal daughter. But as preparation, duty, discipline, sacrifice. That branding shift is enormous. And personally, I think Letizia engineered much of it behind the scenes while still protecting Felipe from just how fragile public trust had become. Because once a monarch starts openly reacting to fear, the institution itself begins looking weak. So what do experienced media minds do instead? They project calm while quietly rebuilding the brand underneath. And honestly, that's exactly what this royal family seems to have been doing for years. Now let's talk about the emotional side for a minute, because this is the part that makes the story human instead of just political analysis. Imagine being Queen Letizia. You marry into one of Europe's most scrutinized royal institutions. Every gesture becomes international news. Every parenting choice gets analyzed online. Every facial expression becomes a conspiracy theory on YouTube. Then on top of that, you're trying to prepare your daughter for a future role that younger generations increasingly question altogether. That pressure would change anybody. And I think sometimes audiences forget there are real psychological costs to constantly performing stability for the public. Especially in Spain, where the monarchy has already survived scandals, public distrust, and political tension. That history matters a lot, which is why I don't buy the simplistic version of this story floating online right now. I don't think Letizia hid a dramatic secret from Felipe like some Netflix thriller. I think she carried a private understanding of modern media reality before the institution itself fully adapted to it. And carrying that knowledge probably isolated her. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The person who sees the danger first often looks paranoid until everyone else catches up. Now suddenly old palace decisions look different, don't they? The strict management around Leonor. The careful family appearances. The reduction of unnecessary exposure. The obsession with professionalism. What if those weren't vanity choices at all? What if they were survival strategies? And honestly, when I compare Spain's royal evolution to other monarchies right now, I think that strategy may actually be working. Leonor's popularity feels fundamentally different from typical royal celebrity attention. People don't just admire her. They study her. That's important, because admiration fades quickly online. But fascination creates longevity, and the palace seems deeply aware of that now. Especially after Leonor's military training transformed public perception of her almost overnight. Now let me connect something interesting here. While King Charles, Prince William, and Kate Middleton are constantly balancing tradition with emotional relatability in Britain, Spain seems to be building something else entirely around Leonor. Credibility. Not fantasy. Not glamour. Credibility. That's a smarter long-term strategy in 2026, honestly. Audiences today are brutally skeptical. They don't automatically respect institutions anymore. Respect has to look earned. And maybe Letizia recognized that years ago before anyone else around her dared admit it openly. That's why I think the so-called secret matters. Because it wasn't about deception. It was about awareness. And awareness changes power dynamics inside families, institutions, and monarchies very quietly. The person who understands the future first often starts making decisions nobody else fully understands at the time. Until suddenly, years later, everybody realizes why those decisions were made. And maybe that's exactly where Felipe is now. Not discovering a betrayal, discovering how much pressure Letizia had been carrying alone. Because if we're being honest, modern monarchy isn't really about crowns anymore. It's about narrative management under permanent global surveillance. One viral clip can undo years of carefully built trust. One awkward moment becomes international commentary. One bad headline becomes algorithm fuel for weeks. That's the environment Letizia entered. And whether people love her or criticize her, I think she adapted to that reality faster than almost anyone expected. Maybe even faster than King Felipe himself. Which leads to the real question behind this entire story. What happens when the person protecting the monarchy emotionally starts feeling emotionally exhausted by protecting it? Because lately, and this is just my observation, Letizia sometimes looks less like someone controlling the institution. And more like someone carrying the invisible weight of keeping it stable. And honestly, that may have been the real secret all along.